Hello, hello. I am back. Day 3 of my series on helping out overweight kids and parents and learning how to deal with the struggles that come along with all that. So today I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about bullying. Now, first and foremost, I want to say that I am obviously not an expert on anything, really. I guess I could be an expert at delivering mail, but I am not an expert on this topic. These are only my experiences from what I dealt with growing up as a kid who was significantly overweight and from what I have experienced with my daughter. So I wanted to say that because I've seen such horrible things happening to some very, very young kids as a result of their being bullied. And I don't want anyone to think that what I'm saying is like the way to handle it. I'm just giving my experience, and if your child is being bullied, you obviously have to go and deal with it the way that you see fit and what works for your child. So that being said, one of the first things that I always say is don't try to control the bully. And this was something that was really hard as a kid, because obviously when you're sad because you're getting picked on, you're going to go home and you're going to talk to your mom about it. That's what you do, depending on your age, I guess. But that's what I always did. I cried to my mom about everything. And her initial reaction would always be to try to go make it stop, which obviously makes sense. That's what parents do. They go and they help their kids and they try to make them feel better. And if they know the kid who's bullying them, they're going to go right after that kid, try to get that kid in trouble, try to, talk to the parents, whatever the case may be. The thing that I learned through that experience, and in hindsight, is that there are so many factors as to whether or not ratting out the bully is going to make a difference. First and foremost is the bully's parents. There are some parents who would be devastated to find out that their kid was picking on another kid. And then there are other parents who really couldn't give a crap. And that's just the reality. I know for me personally, if I ever found out that Kayla was, being emotionally harmful to another kid, I'd lose my mind. But there are parents who just don't care. And those parents are not going to discipline their child. So even if the school does, the parents aren't going to have the same reaction. There's so many factors that go into that kind of stuff, and it's hard to go that route. And trust me, the mama bear instinct is always going to put you in a position where you want to go on the defense and go get the mean kid. That's what you want to do. But it's not always the right route. So before you jump all mama bear, take a deep breath and talk to your child about what's going on in a little more depth. The other thing that I have found, this was more with Kayla than with me, because I don't know that there was as much awareness as to bully mentality back when I was a kid, or if it wasn't talked about as much. But that was a conversation that Kayla and I had. She's been very fortunate, honestly. She hasn't gotten bullied much. She's had a couple. When we first moved and she started a new school in 5th grade, she had one mean boy who was calling her fat repeatedly. And I guess she put up with it for about a week before she came to me with it and totally lost it. It was all tearful. And we talked about it, and one of the things that I had said to her was, okay, well, tell me more about this boy who was picking on her. And that's another one, don't ever tell your chunky daughter that the mean boy is picking on her because he likes her. It's a really, really bad lesson. Don't do it. Just don't. The whole psychology behind that is just all sorts of screwed up. So stay away from that one. But Kayla and I were talking about the boy who was picking on her, and I asked her about, whether he was good in school, if he was smart, if he was athletic. We talked about nationality. We went into all these different things so that I had a better understanding of this boy. Turns out it was an Asian boy in a predominantly... she said that there were maybe 2 other Asian students that she knew of in the whole school. So we talked about that a little bit, and I said to her, well, how do you think he feels being kind of the odd man out? And that gave her a different perspective on it and made her realize that it's really not about her. It was never about her. It's always been about him. And being able to, and obviously that's going to depend on your child's age, whether or not that's even an appropriate conversation. But if your child's old enough to be able to wrap their head around those types of concepts, it helps. For her, it helped her realize that, you know what, this really had nothing to do with her. It wasn't about her. But the other conversation, and this leads to my other point, is if your child wants to change, help them change. And if they don't, encourage them to be good with who they are, where they're at, and don't force a change on them. You know, for me as a kid getting bullied for being overweight, I wanted nothing more than to not be the fat kid. That's it. That's all I wanted. Unfortunately, it just never worked out that way. And the bullying, it stays with you. It really does. I mean, I have a very hard time making new friends because I'm constantly thinking about what their perception of me is, which is ridiculous. Grown-ups don't do that kind of stuff, at least not to the same capacity. And you know, it's just stuff that gets ingrained in you. So for me, all I ever wanted to do was change. And, you know, I really didn't have, I don't know if I didn't have the support or if I just didn't have the knowledge or what the whole, I don't even know how to put that one. But point being, I wanted to change. And if your child wants to change, help them. Help them. Figure out what it is that they need to do to be able to make a difference and to get to where they want to be, and then do it with them. You know, in previous videos and blogs, I've talked about more about how to handle changing diet, exercise, healthy lifestyle for your child without them feeling like the odd man out, which is huge. But now for Kayla honestly was pretty okay in her own skin. She really, you know, she knew she was a little overweight, but she wasn't overly concerned with it. And up until this one boy picking on her, nobody ever had, and it was really a non-issue. So, you know, when we talked about that whole situation with that boy who was picking on her, I had asked her, I said, well, you know, is this something that bothers you? And if it is, we can work on it together. And she said it didn't. And having the conversation about where the bully was coming from and making her see it, things kind of from his side was enough to help her feel better about the situation. So bullying sucks. It really sucks. And if you get any, you know, if you're one of the parents who gets wind that your child is picking on somebody else, fix it. Figure out a way to fix it. And if your child is getting picked on, talk to them and let them know, you know, the bigger picture about that it really isn't their issue. And if it is something that they're being picked on that is something that can be changed, and you as a parent have the ability to help them change it, do that. But at the end of the day, make sure that you are keeping things positive with your kids, that they are hearing positive things about themselves. And if you start to hear them negatively talking about themselves, seriously try to turn that conversation around quickly. And if you can't turn it around, then look for help elsewhere. You know, there's lots of great therapists out there for kids that can help make sure that they are learning how to talk to themselves in a healthy, productive way. So that's my note on bullying, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great night.